Welcome to the Joy of Editing. Today we dive into the captivating world of DxO FilmPack 7. As we explore this powerful film emulator, we'll unravel its secrets. Can it go beyond nostalgia and empower our photos with professional-grade photo editing? Let's embark on this journey together. Stay tuned. Hello everyone and welcome to the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. I'll be editing this iPhone image that I took at the Pittsburgh Zoo with DxO FilmPack 7. I want to give it a film look as well as see what kind of a photo editor is it, or is it truly a photo editor? But we're going to find out today. Now, I myself am a big fan of FilmPack 7. I think it does a really good job, which you will see. You can use FilmPack 7 as a standalone app. You can run it from DxO Photolab, as well as run it as a plugin in Photoshop, which I'll be doing here today. Well, let's dive in. I went ahead and duplicated my background layer and called it DxO FilmPack 7. I'm going to come up here to Filter, come to DxO Labs, and click on DxO FilmPack 7, launch it, and we will get started. And here we are inside of FilmPack 7. Are you ready for some fun? Now, right over on the right-hand side, we see presets. And you'll have color presets, black and white presets, but you'll notice right now I'm filtered by color, and I really like this. You could click on Filter, and you have your choices of different presets that you could go by here. But I wanted today to work with color, so I filtered out by color. Now you'll notice at the top here it says Legacy Negative Films. And as I scroll down through here, you'll see all these different presets in here. There's Legacy Slide Films, all kinds of different presets. There's also presets that emulate infrared photography like the Kodak EIR. But there's just a whole bunch of presets, and they all emulate film looks. Let me go back to the top of the presets, and we'll just click through some of these just to give you an idea of what they do. This first one is 2021 Lomochrome Metropolis 100, so let's click on that, and we can see what it looks like. Here's another one, ADOX Color Implosion. And you'll also notice over on the left-hand side, they tell you about this particular film, when it was produced, information about it. So a lot of good, helpful stuff here to help you on your journey of getting the right film look for your image, as well as grains. They give you really natural grains, and the grains also match the film you're emulating. Let's just click through a few more of these presets. These are really awesome. I really love FilmPack 7. But next up, I'm going to jump right into the edit. This is the preset I chose for this image. It's called Moody Dark Green, and you can read about it over here. Now, let's turn our attention to the right-hand side of the interface. Of course, I showed you presets already, but then we have Customize. And when you click on Customize, here is all of your editing tools. And I'm telling you what, there are a lot of editing tools in here. And we're going to be editing this image with these tools. Did you notice Luminosity Masks? If you watch my TK Friday videos, you know I'm really into luminosity masking. Now, this is not as elaborate as the TK9 plugin for Photoshop, but it's pretty good, and you could do it right here inside of FilmPack 7. I'll go ahead and close the information panel by clicking the X. And now, if you come here where it says zoom, click here, we can fit this to screen. I'll scroll back up to the top of the interface here. Now, we start out with rendering. Now, this is a drop-down. If you click here, you can go and get different renderings here, as well as with the presets. But as you'll note, I am on the Moody Dark Green preset, the one I have chosen. So I can take this slider and I could drag it to the left and, reduce the amount of that effect, or we could drag it to the right and increase that effect. But I like it right here. And now just underneath that, we have grain. This preset is using no grain. But you could come to this drop-down and choose grain for any type of a film that you want. But in this case, I'm going to leave the grain off. The preset I'm using, Moody Dark Green, represents a cinematic type look. Doesn't actually have a film name attached to it, but it's a cinematic look. And now below that, you'll notice we have split toning. So if you click right here, you'll open up split toning. You can add toning to the highlights or the shadows. I'm not going to use that on this image, but it's really nice to be able to have that. So far, it's looking like a photo editor, isn't it? And then under that, we have develop. Now, of course, we have your typical exposure, highlight, midtone shadows, and black adjustments. The only thing I really want to do here, because I like the way it looks so far, is just open up my shadows just a little wee bit. To maybe right there, I think is good. And of course, we can adjust the saturation of the image, give it more or less. And if you double click anywhere within this area, it'll reset it back to the default setting. And of course you have vibrancy. And then of course luminosity masking, which I'll get there in a little bit. But let's scroll down further yet. And let's take a look right here. This is contrast. Now this is not just your average contrast control. This is a contrast control on steroids. Now of course you have regular contrast where you can just adjust your contrast. But then you have micro contrast, fine contrast, highlight contrast, midtone contrast, and shadow contrast. It's pretty powerful. And for this image, I think I just want to pull back the contrast a little wee bit to maybe somewhere right about here. And then micro contrast, I want to open that up a little bit. Notice when I drag it to the right, you see all that micro contrast coming in there. Now, I don't want to go crazy here. A little bit goes a long way. And I think right there is pretty good. And now don't forget, you can always come up here and click this compare button. Left click and hold. There's the before and there's the after. And you also have, if you click right here, you could do a side by side to see how the edit is coming along. If you click in the middle here in the circle, you could have top and bottom. Click this again, and now you have a side-by-side view. Now you can't drag this across. I keep trying to drag this. Oh, yes, you can. Don't click on here and try to drag. You have to click here and drag. So you can do a before and after like that. And then also if you click this again, we're back to the original image. So a lot of ways of seeing a before and after. Now remember, this is not a highlight, midtone, and shadow adjustment. It's a highlight contrast adjustment, just for contrast in the highlights. Double click anywhere to reset for midtone contrast. See that? Reduce or add to it. Double click to return to the default setting. And then here's shadows. Let's see what the shadow contrast is like. Isn't that cool? Again, I'm going to double click and reset this. Now note, you'll notice you see these little toggles on all the different adjustments. For contrast, if I shut this off, we can see what it looks like before my adjustment and turn it back on, see what it looks like after. Just a minimal adjustment, but much needed. Now, one thing when you're editing, you don't ever want to overdo things, and you don't have to work with every control or adjustment inside of a photo editing piece of software. Just use the ones that you need. But it does pay to experiment and see what the different sliders are doing for the image, or you'll never know. By the way, you can close this contrast group by just clicking right up in this top area, and that collapses it. And now we're going to turn our attention to hue, saturation, and lightness. And as you can see, it breaks it down to all the different colors here. And notice under hue only, you have global. So you could shift the global hue, to the left or to the right. I don't want to adjust the global hue, so I'll just double click to reset. That's something you typically don't see with HSL adjustments in other software. And I'm referring to that global hue adjustment. Pretty nice. I do want to work on some of the image's colors, and I think I'm going to work with yellow and green in saturation first. I want a little bit more yellow saturation, maybe somewhere right around there, and maybe some green. Let me drag this green slider over, and I'm going to go right about here. I like that. And again, we can shut this off by clicking on this toggle. There's before and there's after. I do like that. And now I'll come up here to the hue under yellow, and I think I want to shift that hue a little bit. I just want to warm it up slightly. That's too much. Maybe right about there, -11. Let me toggle off the hue. Here's before and here is after, and I like that. Now I'm going to scroll back up and show you what a lot of you maybe have been waiting for, the luminosity masking. Now notice up here you have a picker tool where you could click on this and pick a tone that you want, or you could go through the different luminosity zones. What I want to do is target this darker area in the water back here and make it a little bit more darker, this water. So let's find a zone. Now this is important. What you need to do, you see this plus button right here, click on it, and that adds a luminosity mask. And you see it defaults at a zone 5 right here. But then you could click through these. Like, again, I'm trying to target this darker water area back here. So let's go and click zone 0, see what that gets me. That gets me back in here. That's not what I want. Here's zone 1. And you can see in magenta, this is the area that is being selected. Now you can change that color. If you'll notice down here at the bottom here, you have a bunch of different controls here. and you have mask color. If you click in here, a color picker comes up and you can change that color. You can adjust the opacity of the mask overlay. You can make it stronger or weaker with the mask opacity slider. You can uncheck show mask and shut that off. Click it again to show the mask. And you also have some brush tools here. You have an add brush and a subtract brush. And then you have some brush settings right here. And then after you're done making your luminosity masks, you would click apply. But that's not the zone I want. Let's try zone 2. Getting closer. I'd like to encompass this area as well. Let's try zone 3. Zone 3 I think is going to get it. Now it's getting into my flamingos and also this land area. I don't want it back in here, but we can take care of that because we have a subtract brush that we can click on. So I'm going to click on that subtract brush. And now I'm going to adjust the brush size. I'm going to give it the largest brush I can get. And the opacity, I'm going to take it up to 100%. And all I'll do is just paint off this back area here. I really like this subtract brush that you can do this. And there's also an add brush as well. But let me go ahead and get this off back in here. It is on this land area, but that doesn't bother me, but it's on my flamingos. I'm going to take the brush size and make it smaller, like about that size, and I'll just paint it off these flamingos. And as soon as I paint this off, we'll go ahead and make some adjustments. All I want to do is decrease the exposure on this area. And here's something I don't like. I'm going to go to exposure. If I start to drag this back, the overlay doesn't go away. So what you need to do is come and shut off the mask. See where it says show mask? Uncheck that by clicking on it. And now you can go ahead and pull back your exposure or any adjustments in here that you want, as well as contrast and micro contrast. But the only thing I want to do is pull back the exposure just to darken that area up a little bit to somewhere like right about there. Now, if you needed to, you could come back and click the plus and add another mask and work on different areas. You can duplicate a mask by clicking on this button. You can click this button to invert your mask, whatever you need to do. And you also have an opacity slider so that you could take this slider and pull back a little bit and, ease off on the adjustment that you made. So a lot of nice things here. The only thing I wish they would improve is when you have your overlay showing, when you make an adjustment, I wish it would automatically shut off that overlay. I think they really need to fix that. And now the last thing I want to do, I'm going to drag the whole way down here. And notice you have a tone curve. You also have some lens effects. You have some filters here you can use. You have vignetting, creative vignetting. You can do blur. There's a lot you can do here in FilmPack 7. Let me click on creative vignetting, and all I want to do is give this image a little bit of a vignette. So I'm going to drag this slider to the left to somewhere right around there, just to give me a little vignette to keep us into the frame. And I'll just go ahead and click apply to apply my adjustments. Let's click on the compare button. Here is the before and here is the after, and that is it. My final thoughts about DxO FilmPack 7, I do believe it is a very capable image editor. And if you love giving your images a filmic look, this is the program for you. And I really love it and I really enjoy it. Now, remember I started out in Photoshop. All I need to do is come up to the upper left menu and click save, and that saves us right back into Photoshop. And here we are back in Photoshop. So let me shut off the FilmPack layer. Here is the before, and here is the after. I'm really happy with this edit. Well, there it is, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this edit using DxO FilmPack 7, which I believe is a great photo editor, as well as a means to add a filmic look to your images. If you enjoyed today's tutorial, please give it a like, share it with your friends, and if you're not yet a subscriber to my channel, please subscribe. Click that bell notification icon and then click all so that you'll receive all notifications. And then every time I upload a new tutorial, you'll get notified about it. I want to thank each and every one of you for joining me today in the Joy of Editing with Dave Kelly. And I will see you all right here next time. But until then, happy editing.